Hello, Hackerproof family. What's up? Let me know what's happening. We have Amina here, a BA coach, and I'll let her introduce herself.
Yeah, my name is Amina. Thank you so much for having me, first and foremost.
Problem.
I want to say that I've been in the BA space for over 10 years. I think it's probably and I say this all the time, it's probably one of the easiest kind of roles to pivot into. So I started off as a BA, kind of moved into QA, kind of like management, doing some like QA work. Then I got into product management, project management, found my way back into business analysis. And then I started moving into senior like management roles. So now I manage my own team of BAs and QA. So
So how did you come upon this position? Because I know you used to live in Canada. Were you doing that in Canada too, or
yeah,
how
I
was
was.
the transition like too?
So how did I fall upon it? So one of my good friends kind of mentioned it to me in passing. This is like 2014. Like, oh, like I'm in tech. So whenever I heard tech, I was like, okay, these guys are probably like coders. They're doing some type of like technical stuff that I probably, don't even have an understanding of, right? I need a computer science degree. And he's like, no. You just like need to know how to talk to people. You need to know how to like, facilitate conversations, understand people's needs, like their desires, things that they want, for their business and how that kind of translate into like technology. So I was like, all right, cool. So I took a course. It was literally 5 weeks. At that time, it was 5 weeks. And then I started applying for jobs. And then I got my first interview. Didn't go so well. Second interview didn't go so well.
Never does, man.
But my third, fourth interview, I started picking up some momentum, and I got a job working for Elections Ontario. So it's within Elections Canada.
Okay.
So I did that. Then I moved into like different positions for like large retail organizations, and then government spaces and like non-for-profit companies. And so
Yeah, I'd like to pick up on something you said. So you said like the first interview didn't go well, the second one, but the third one, that's when you started building up like confidence and stuff like that. What actually helped you? Like, were you able to be like, oh, now I've done it a few times and maybe I have these certifications, I'm able to, be more confident about how I speak during the interviews and stuff like that?
So the first interview, I want to say like it was difficult, right? Because mind you, I haven't actually been a real
Right,
VA.
just theory.
Just theory, right? So when I first started interviewing, they would ask me a question like, can you tell me about a time that you like dealt with a difficult stakeholder on a project?
Whoa, yeah.
And then and in my rookiness, I'd be like, oh, I've never had a difficult stakeholder. Never. I've had only good stakeholders. But if I did have a difficult stakeholder, this is what I would do.
Yeah.
Because the thing is that I didn't prepare myself for that type of question.
Yep.
You get me?
Yeah.
And I couldn't really put myself in a position where it's like I've worked in an IT space and I've dealt with difficult clients and like difficult projects. I just kind of paved this idea that it was great.
It was great, yeah.
Just so
Everything
that I
was
could
nice.
avoid having to answer that difficult question.
questions,
Right.
Because if they ask me, you have a difficult stakeholder, 9 times out of 10, you have to go into like the situation. What happened that you had a difficult stakeholder?
Do the star method or something like
Star
that.
method, right? And I wasn't taught like that.
Right.
Yeah.
All of those things I kind of had to learn for myself.
True.
So it didn't go well. And what I used to do is I used to record myself.
Oh, no.
So I would record myself and then I would go and listen, as cringe as it would
Yeah.
sound.
Cringe as hell.
It's horrible. And so then I would listen to myself and I'm like, oh, Amina, you didn't do so well. Then I would do it a second time. And then the third time I started realizing that, no, Amina, you have to have like a star. What was the situation?
Yeah.
What was the task that you did, the action, the result? And even if you haven't really done it, in the actual BA capacity, you must have had an experience where you had a difficult stakeholder on the job.
Right.
So explain that and then talk about the technology you guys use.
Yeah.
So I tried that and then I was like, okay, it was picking up. So I got want to say by my fourth interview, I got a job. And I say this to say is because a lot of people might look at like the outcome and say, oh my gosh, I want to get into tech and this person's been in tech for so long. But the story is not so linear. It's not so we've struggled.
Oh yeah,
Like,
we suffered.
We've suffered. So so I started using the STAR method and I got a job. Now when I first got my first real like big girl BA role, I put in work. So this is not a time where like it was like, I want to say remote, like, remote work where you're like you're on Teams calls. Like this is like I had to leave my house at 6 a.m.
Oh yeah, going to the
Yeah,
office.
I
go
had
to
to
office,
leave my house.
yeah.
I used to live in, so people who live in Toronto, I used to live in Brampton, and
Oh,
I had
yeah.
to drive to Scarborough.
Oh, Brampton.
So
Yeah, I
like,
know that.
you know, right? So,
Yeah.
and that's far.
Yeah, that's
so,
very far,
and then
yeah.
the traffic. So it took me like about an hour and a half to get to work, an hour and a half to get home. And then this is like, you know, you can't fake it. You're in front of people. Whereas, you know, if you're on a project, you're on a call with people, you can say, "Oh, I'll get back to you." Use all your lingo.
Yep,
I'll
yep.
get back. And when you get off the call, you
go do
Google,
it.
you search,
You
you try.
search, but yeah,
Do
there's
your
nothing like
homework,
that.
yeah.
You can't.
Well, in person, and they're asking you a
can't.
question, they can read your whole body language.
Oh yeah.
And so I'm grateful kind of for that start because, I mean, I feel like, you know, people who are getting into tech now have it a little bit easier.
Definitely.
But so I went in person, and I remember this project manager, I'll never forget her name, Chantel. I think she realized it was my first real corporate role because like I couldn't even figure out how to use like, you know, to book people for like their meetings.
Yeah, on
Oh
Teams.
gosh. And they didn't you know, and they didn't teach you
They
that
don't teach you
basic
that,
stuff
right?
Yeah.
You
Right.
gotta
in
figure
your
it out on the
boot
fly.
camp. You
Yeah.
gotta figure it out.
Gotta figure
So
it
I
out
would
for
go
sure.
I would go into work, be there at 7 a.m. and try to figure out all the basic administrative stuff,
Yeah.
and then start working at 8. And then I did that for like a year, 2 years. But then I had a goal, and I said, you know what, I need to work closer to home. Right, that was my goal, my first ever goal as a BA. I need to work closer to home. So I got another job at Loblaw, which is like one of Canada's one of the largest retailers, and they have Shoppers Drug Mart as part of their partner. So I started working for them. It was 10 minutes away from home,
Oh, that's good.
which was great. And then I set another goal. I said, nah, I need to make more money. And then so I started like, you know, prepping my resume, just trying everything. And I just started pivoting. And I think setting goals for myself as a BA and saying to myself, like, in the next 5 years, I want to manage my own team.
Right.
At that time, I was like, I don't know how I would ever even manage
Your team.
grown adults.
Grown men.
Grown
too.
men, because my team is, I don't have any, like, it's men.
Yeah.
And that's intimidating as
Yeah.
a female to manage a team of men, right? So, yeah, that's
Yeah,
mine.
yeah. So I wanna go back to what you said about like the star method, right? I think that people don't really understand how important that is because what I've done recently is that let's say like 2 years back, I kind of like I took my resume and I built like 10 different star scenarios from that I can be using back to back.
Yes.
Right. So like how important is that star method in like interviews these days?
Oh, it's, you will not, like, you won't make it far in an interview if you don't have a star method.
Yeah. Yeah.
You won't make
I
it
think
far.
so too.
And I say this to say is because you see, interviewers they want to know, can you do the job?
Yep.
Right? They don't want to know theory. All of them know the theory, right? They want to know, can you do the job, and give me an example of a time that you did the job so I can kind of see if it's something that a same problem that we have.
Decent or not.
And then is it something that you've solved for your company or previous companies, and can you come and solve that problem for us? But the only way to kind of show that to them or kind of exemplify that you can do the job is if you give them a situation.
Of course.
Right.
Yeah. So like I was saying too as well, like you know, I built like 10 different like star scenarios from my
That's
resume
amazing.
just so I can be like, you know, changing them up
Did you
back to
build
back.
it or use ChatGPT to build it?
Both, bro, both. You know, use whatever you can. Do you get what I'm saying? So
It's interesting. So there's another method called the CAR method. So challenge, action, and result. And I say this, I personally am old school, so I'll still just do STAR. But challenge, action, and result is basically the same thing.
It's like same thing, yeah.
It's because situation is essentially the challenge.
The challenge, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The story.
Yeah.
Right. And then the task and your action.
Yeah,
is
it's like that
sometimes
action
it's
part.
difficult because when you do task and action, they're almost the same
Same
thing.
thing.
Right, it's the same
Task
thing.
and action is basically the same thing, right? So then they just bundle it all up into action.
To action.
And then what was the result?
Yeah.
So sometimes when people have difficulty kind of like, you know, spelling out what was a start, I'm just like, listen, think about CAR. Challenge,
That's
action,
simple.
result.
Result.
Yeah.
But the fact that you did that, you had 10 different star items for your resume speaks volumes.
Yep.
Because as I explained, you know, to Kobe, that when I started interviewing, you know, using the STAR method, that's when I actually started getting my, like, you know, getting callbacks.
Getting callbacks.
Right?
Yeah.
Even till now, I'll give you a good example. I think it's always really, really good to interview, even if you have a job that you love.
Yeah.
I always say this, like, stay current. Don't be dusty. Just be prepared, because the job market is very, very crazy. So always just be ready to like pivot, right? So even though I coach, I've been teaching for over like 8 years. I went into an impromptu like type of like interview, like, you know, for like a consulting role, because I do IT consulting on the side as well. But you know, sometimes, and I'm sure you guys have been in the industry for a bit, you kind of get a bit like, oh, I know this, I teach it, it's cool.
Yeah.
I didn't prepare. I just was like, whatever.
It's gonna catch you.
And what I'm trying to, you know, say to people is that even if you have experience, it's easier for you to just put it into a star and prepare your answers than to go and just wing it.
Right.
Because I can go and I have all these years of experience, but because I wasn't ready, I haven't thought through how I'm going to articulate my experience.
Yeah.
Even though I actually have the experience. So imagine you don't have the experience. So that, I just went in, I was just talking. It was a weird kind of interview. I didn't prepare. I haven't heard from them yet, but I know why I haven't heard, because I was freestyling, you know, I wasn't. And mind you, sometimes you're comfortable, so you have a job. I have a job, I coach, I teach, I'm good. So I was just doing it because I didn't want to, you know, I want to stay current, right? But I didn't prepare. So that's just an example of the fact that even with as much experience, you need to put a STAR method together. That's a sure way of getting an interview.
Yeah, but that's the like, you know, like, you know, the dilemma too, right? Because sometimes you will see someone that doesn't have as much skills as you do, doesn't have as much experience, but they're getting jobs.
I think it has to do with like their personality most of the time.
No,
like
true.
How they are personable, how they are able to communicate. You know, just ask about the guys. You know, some people even at work, right? You talk to them about their dogs, and that makes them so happy.
Yep, true.
And it's crazy. I'm like, really, your dog? But like, that's how it is right now in the industry, bro. So if you have a good personality, I think you always do well in interviews. As long as you know your material.
I think that if you have a good personality, you can go very far in this life.
Yeah.
Let's just even put like interviews to the side. If you have a great personality, you're charismatic, you can speak. I feel like people like that, they found the hack, right? They found the hack. They know how to like for somebody like that, I can say off the top of my head, my dad. My dad can get into any room, anywhere, talk to anybody because he's just so charismatic, right? So people who are naturally kind of charismatic, when they go into like interviews, it's easy for them to like, even if they don't really know, and I say the gift for gab, even if they don't know, they'll just say things, mix it up a little bit, and you're like, oh wow, and then you hire them. But then like, you know, for people who are a little bit more shy or a little bit more reserved, you could be amazing. You could like manage a project to the end and deliver. You could be a great BA, be a great cybersecurity specialist and analyze threats to a company. But if you don't know how to speak up for yourself, there are people who are going to be, you know, who are going to be less qualified than you are, and they'll get the jobs that you're supposed to be having.
It's crazy.
It's happening all the time.
It's happening all the time. So like, I want to go back to, you know, what you said, like in the beginning, right? You said BA is like one of the you know, it's just supposed to get into. But I've been looking at the job market, and it seems like a lot of people are finding it hard to get into it. Like, how's the job market right now, like for BA?
And how's the demand as well?
Yeah, exactly. How's the demand?
Because I don't know too many people in there.
Yeah. So, those are really good questions. I want to see if I want to frame the answer. The demand is there, and I'll explain. The one, I teach students all the time, coach students all the time, and every week I have one student at least messaging me saying that they got an interview or they've gotten a job.
Nice.
This one guy joined my class, like I was 3 weeks into my class, and he joined and he got a job before everybody, right? It also depends on your skill set that you're coming with as well, right? But I'll explain kind of the job. So in general, there are people who are getting interviews. I'm still prepping people for interviews like today. I'm still people are like getting calls. So the demand is there. And I'll explain like why a BA is needed or necessary, or why and because you said that you don't really know a lot of people in the BA space. The BA role is really dynamic in the sense that when you start an IT project, right, it's very easy. Like the business says, hey, like we have like this customer retention issue. We need to use Salesforce or something, right? We need to implement Salesforce, but we need like somebody to get the requirements. Like the developers know what they want, but we need to like get it very clear as to like how the end user is going to use that system, right? very easy for the business to just write like a list of things they want and then give it to, you know, the IT guys, and then you guys will develop it and then deploy it, right? But the BA is there first and foremost to really understand, do you even really need Salesforce?
Yeah.
Like this thing that you say that you want, do you actually really need it? How much budget do you guys even have to even implement this? And if so, right, are there any other platforms that you guys can leverage instead of having to go and spend?
Yeah.
So we're first building out the business case.
Right.
And most companies need that, or you're going to get audited. And that's how projects end. And that's how consultants lose their job, because there was no original business case for the company to say, hey, like, this is something that we actually need. Here is like the actual, like, on paper, what the gap is and why we need this product, right? And here are all of the solutions that we looked at before we went to Salesforce.
Right.
Do you get me? So the BA will kind of go in and start doing that. The project will get kicked off. Now the BA will sit with the business to understand their real needs, right? They'll say, okay, like, you know, you want to use this platform, the actual details.
Yeah.
Then we'll get that information and then we'll share it with the IT teams. But furthermore, sometimes the request can be so complicated or so complex that you need somebody to map out the process.
Right.
To show,
Break it down.
I'll give you a good example. At work, we're implementing something. My BA wrote the requirements well, very detailed. But sometimes people are not, like, they don't want to read the details. They just want to see visuals. So I put together a visual because, like, I knew that was my strength. And just because I'm the manager, I'm not going to be that person to be like, go and write a process flow. Because I knew if I told him to do that, he would be sweating. So I went and I did the process flow. I presented it. I told him, join the meeting. Just make sure that I'm not, like, fumbling because you're the one that wrote the requirements. We reviewed the process flow and the devs were like, I get this. This makes sense. Now, imagine you didn't have a BA to do all those skills, right? Now, the devs will start going in and developing something. And then by the time they roll out the product to you, it's not even what you wanted.
Right.
So the BA is like that middleman between the business and the IT teams.
So what's the difference between a BA and a project manager?
Great. So the BA is focused on like the business, like what the business wants and getting them a technology solution, right? The project manager, very close, but the project manager really cares about the overall project, like the progress of the project. Is everybody doing the work in the project the way they need to get us to the deadline that we have? So they're focused on budget, timelines, and scope. So we said that this is what we're going to deliver. Are we in scope? Are we within budget? And are we within our timeline? And
Facts.
if the project fails, then it's on the project manager.
True.
Right.
Right? If the system fails or the system's not doing what it needs to do, they're going to look to the BA to say, what happened to the requirements? Now, in actuality, nobody's going to blame anybody, right? But that's what people are going to think in their heads.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
So the thing about the BA role is that BAs can easily be project managers.
Yeah, definitely. I can see
could.
that.
We could, but then the issue is that if you're on a very complex project, we need time to focus on the requirements and the process mapping and to make sure that we understand what the business needs. We don't have time to be chasing other people in terms of like the work that they're doing and are we within scope, are we within budget? Like, but there's a lot of BAs who double as PMs. And the other role that BAs double as is in QA.
Yeah, quality assurance, right?
Quality assurance. BAs do QA. So my BAs do QA. I do QA.
Okay.
Like BA can easily even do like a risk analyst or something like that.
We can do risk analysis.
They can too.
We can do, I'm not in cybersecurity. I don't have no GRC, but I can identify elements or requirements that require some security analysis.
Yeah.
So this is the reason why I always say to people with everything that I've just described, I always say to people that when you get into the BA role, you can pivot everywhere.
I see it.
Yeah.
Right? You can pivot everywhere. Think of like the software development life cycle and all of the different key players. You have like the project manager, the devs, the designers,
Scrum
UX
masters.
Design, Scrum Master. We kind of do all of the roles, right? In some capacity. I got an email the other day. The Scrum Master was not available. She's like, I'm going to be off on Thursday. Your BA is going to be off. Can you manage the Scrum? Why didn't she message any of the devs to do it.
Yeah,
Because
she
that's
knows
not
that,
your skill.
yeah.
Because she
Definitely,
knows
yeah.
that I do have the skill
The
set
skills, yeah.
to run the scrum. Is it my job? No.
Yeah.
But would I be able to do it? Yeah. Right. So
Yeah, and I feel like that's why it's very like like important for people to have like different skills, right? Like BA, you can do Scrum, you can do like QA, you
Yeah.
can, so anywhere you find
To
yourself, you
leverage
can get in.
yourself. Yeah.
Because sometimes you may be looking for that BA job, but it might not come. But
You're
a
right.
QA job would come. They'd be
Yeah.
like going that way.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. And I tell my students this all the time. I'm like, listen, yes, the title of my mentorship is BA, but please do not limit yourself to BA.
Oh yeah, of course.
I'll give you a good example. One of my first ever roles, I think I told you guys when I was working for elections, like I think
Yeah.
Elections Ontario. It was a contract role, so it was like temporary. It was like, I think it was like a 1-year contract. And my manager or the PM was like, Amina, why didn't you apply for the product manager role? And then, mind you, this is my first BA role. So I was like, what product manager? Me, product manager. I said, no. She's like, no, like you could actually do it. I was like, really? So I went on my computer and I on my email and I checked the job
Description.
description.
Skill sets,
The
everything.
thing was like, gather requirements,
Yeah.
manage the product backlog, which we do from
Basically
from
the
an
same
agile
thing.
perspective,
Yeah.
support with test scripts, like writing test scripts. And I'm like, this is the BA role. The title is just different.
Different. Right.
And then they already hired for somebody, like not hired, but they had finished. They closed off their
the interviews.
their interviews, and I couldn't apply for it anymore.
That's
And so I said, never again will I not open up a job description because of the job title.
Right.
If you wake up one day and you say, as a BA, I want to work for Meta, or if I want to work for Netflix, or I don't know, WhatsApp. Well, Meta and WhatsApp are the same thing. But if you go on their website and you type business analyst, you won't find a BA job.
Really?
I would be shocked. I would be extremely shocked.
Wow.
But if you type in the key search box like requirements, if you type like agile, because you can search for keywords,
Right.
there will be titles like process analyst. There'll be titles like design thinking specialist. And you would think
It's something else, right?
That's
That's
different.
different.
You would never open it because it's like mind you, when you're applying for jobs, everybody's on a hunt. We're all running.
Yeah.
We're all running to
Desperate.
find jobs. So it's like, if I don't see, it's like skip.
Yeah.
But you don't realize
What's that
that
title?
all the things that you've skipped could be
Actually
your
your job.
possible
Yeah.
job.
Yeah.
I was an IT consultant doing design thinking. You'd probably be like, what? How is that even BA? Really, design thinking was looking at software development from the people's perspective, looking at it not from like the business telling you this is what we want, but more like, let's ask the actual customers and the end users
The end
how they
users.
actually like the system or the product. Let's listen to their feedback and use their feedback to write the requirements.
Yeah, but doesn't that tie into like UI UX too?
It does
Yeah.
tie into UI UX, and this is the reason why if you pivot into this role, you can find yourself in any of these kind of spaces, right? I learned design thinking and lean methodologies through a company I was working with because they just told us to take a course. And I took it and I was like, oh, so I can write my requirements better if I actually talk to the end users.
Right.
Yes, you can design the user interfaces, right? But then there's further processes that you need to kind of implement to help that along, right?
Right.
You can design a great UI, but then if your process sucks and it's not what, the client wants, then they're not even going to want to use your, go through that user experience, right? And so I think the point I'm trying to make is that the BA role is very dynamic. And it's allowed me to kind of pivot into different spaces and to figure out kind of like what I want to do. So I did a lot of circles. I went into different spaces. And then, so now people ask me like, what do you do? I just say I'm an IT consultant.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Honestly,
Because you cover a lot of
Because
things.
I
cover
cover
a
a
lot of
lot
places.
of things. Yeah.
So would you is it like advisable to like for like a BA like a person like looking for a job to have like different resumes for all these different skills, so like if one doesn't work then get into the other one, like how can I
That's
like
a good
put that
question.
resume together?
That's a good question. So for me, I have like a standard resume that's a catch-all.
That's what I do too.
It's my lazy resume, but and when I say lazy resume, it's a strong resume.
A strong one.
It's like probably like my powerhouse resume. And I have all my job titles. If you look at the skills, I have every skill there.
The resume.
I even threw in AWS, you know,
Key though.
right?
Key.
Because if you covered it, if you touched it, add it, right?
Yeah.
So I have like a resume that catches all. That's like, okay, Amina, today, if I want to apply for PM, I'll send out that resume. And I'm sure if somebody's smart enough, they can see that I have that skill set and they'll call me. But then I can use that same resume to apply for a BA role and it'll still catch. Because if it goes through like that system, right, it should still be able to pick up those keywords. So I use that to catch all to do like BA, PM, manager, program, product. But I specifically will have like I have a PM resume. I have a specific BA resume. I have a product resume. And then I think I have a design thinking resume, which is kind of like, it's a mix of a bunch of things.
Yeah. Design thinking still busts my head, man. I'm like, what is that?
Oh, but these people will literally hire you and like pay you like crazy amount of money just to come and ask their users how they feel.
So I'd like to also talk about your coaching aspect, the coaching stuff you do. Like, what motivated you and what got you started in that field?
No, thank you for asking that. What motivated me was like, you know, I love the course that I took back in like 2015, 2014. I can't even remember. But I feel like there were gaps, right? But I'm sure the company now has probably filled those gaps in.
Right.
Because companies are always evolving. But I didn't like the fact that like I took a course and I was kind of like off on my own.
Yeah, nobody to help you.
And I felt like, although I will say that, like, you know, I was able to connect with some of the coaches, but I had to call them. I had to dig. I had to, like, bother them, run after them, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not a person that likes to chase people. I don't like chasing people. So I realized that, you know what? If I had somebody who could just sit with me after the course for, like, a month and hold my hand, meet with me once a week and say, okay, Amina, let me review your resume. Let me, like, help you. This is where you're going to apply for jobs. Or did you get a call from a recruiter? This is how you talk to the recruiter. Right. This is how you actually like interview, and then do a mock interview with me. But they have dedicated time for me, right? And then when I got the job, it's not like I'm chasing everybody to help me. I actually have a dedicated person that I can call at least once a week, or maybe if something's crashing and burning at work, I can call that person. I can record what's happening and send the recording to them and say, hey, can you please help me? Like, I'm really struggling at work. Can you please assist me? So I didn't have that. And so I decided to build kind of like a mentorship where it's like, okay, I'm going to teach you the skill set, right? I'm going to teach you the business analysis skill set. And then I'm going to actually handhold you for a month. So outside of like the group setting, I'm going to hold your hand for about a month and we're going to get your resume, you know, tight for you. Because to do a resume like group setting, everybody has different skill sets. Like you need to actually sit with the person. And then when you get the job now, we're going to help you, whether it's with references, whether it's to kind of bring you, because obviously I consult, right? So I can always bring you on to do some of my projects so you can kind of get some hands-on experience. And then when you actually get your own job, you have me for 3 months.
Oh,
right?
Nice.
So you have us for the 90-day probationary period. So I have myself and I have like 2 other coaches. So if you can't get a hold of me, and the good thing is that we're also doing the same job as you. So I always set the expectation that, listen, like we're doing the same 9 to 5 as you. So if you call me and I'm in a meeting and like, you know, the house is burning, call this next
person.
coach. So we have 3 of us and at least one of us should be available, right? And so I think that's helped a lot of people. And once they got through their 3 months probation, I didn't hear from them. But then there's some students that they're go-getters. They're quick. So they got a job like even during the class.
Right.
Then they started the work and I'm messaging them like, hey, how's work? I'm cool. Either I'm cool or no response. You know?
No, that's when you know you're doing a good job.
That's what motivated me, to be very honest.
Yeah, I mean, like, but that's a good package too. Like, you know, being with them through that 3 months period, you know, because like that's the most like difficult part, like getting the job, because once you get that first job, you know, that first month you're going through some things like the training, you know, it's scary because you're like, you know,
but. One thing that you said in terms of motivation, honestly, like getting into tech changed my life. And I will say this, I was on another podcast with Cyrus and I was telling him that it absolutely changed my life. and like my outlook on life, and the fact that there is people in this world making money.
Definitely.
Crazy.
Crazy. And I'm not like, and I don't even think I've hit even that, like, there's so much
money
to go.
be made, yeah.
But I'm like, why, like, our parents, you know, a lot of our parents are immigrants, and they came here, and we had this idea that you have to go to the factory, you got to work.
Yeah.
I was just telling my friend, I was like, I literally roll out of bed, take my kids to school, drink my coffee, watch TV, do whatever I want to do. 9 o'clock, I'm on the computer. If I have no meetings for the rest of the day, I'm chill. That's my norm. And it's been my norm since 2017, even before COVID, right?
Wow.
And so I'm like, when we were growing up, we never expected that this would be our norm, right?
Yeah.
But then we never knew a norm where you can make $800 an hour, or 150, or make 250,000 a year. You think you have to go to be a doctor or be a lawyer or be, you know. So I was saying the other day, because I like school. And I was telling my dad, I was like, I want to go back to school. Maybe I want to go and be a lawyer. Then my dad looked at me, he's like, but aren't you making the same amount that these people are? I was like, yeah, but it's like, it's a degree. It's just because, you know, Africans, we have this mentality that we need to have all these degrees.
And the status rings, right?
But I sat down and I thought to myself, I'm like, you know, if you're going to take a course, then just like do other courses like GRC, do like, you know, AWS, like just add more like skill sets to your tech skills, so that you can just, you know, you can pitch for a better contract, right?
Of course, yeah.
So yeah, that was my motivation, to be honest, and I want everybody else to experience that. And so I'm like, I'm not gonna gatekeep.
Yeah,
right?
Of course.
Yeah. That's something Kemby and I always talk about. Like, bro, we're always looking like, oh man, okay, now we have AWS certification. What are we doing next? What's the plan for this year? How many are we getting this year? Because we always want to build up ourselves, because we know that, bro, there is opportunities and we can leverage all these skill sets somewhere to make more money all the time. So we don't stop. We just keep going till we can't.
Yeah. You just keep going.
Yeah, because like, you know, tech is always like, you know, evolving though.
Yeah,
I think about this, is that like what you learned last year might be different this year,
bro.
It can be annoying, but that's what you have to go through. Like I always say this thing, like, you know, getting into tech is not a sprint but a marathon.
Oh yeah.
You have to keep going the whole race. You can't just go and just start, be like, you won't get very far.
You're right. Even it's interesting. Like I absolutely love my manager, director, but even like people who have like computer, you know, science degrees, like. You know, he'll just say, look, what's the trend these days? You know, he'll be like, how do you do, like, you literally ask, how do you do this? Like, how does it work now? Like, is there anything that's changed? Because the truth is, matters that you could have a computer science degree, master's, but things are always changing in terms of methodology, process. And so it's an ever-evolving landscape where you're always growing, you're always learning. I think, personally, I slowed down a little bit because I started teaching, right? It's
almost, you're still learning.
Yeah, I'm still learning. But I think you know, because you're repeating yourself almost every week about the same thing. So it's like you become an expert at it. But when you start teaching, when you start going into coaching and mentoring, people naturally slow down. Think about it. When I say slow down, it's like I don't have the time to now pick up like more certs and do a bunch of stuff because like I'm like trying to bring on the other people who are behind me. But I think now that, like, you know, I built a strong team, I'm like, okay, now they're helping, and then now we can like pivot. So I always tell people, like, don't let, you know, the fact that you're like a helper slow you down. Try to, like, you know, if you need to build a team to help you, it's okay to do so. It's okay to let things go and then, like, you know, pivot and learn more things. Like, I feel like I've been trying to avoid cybersecurity for some time. And it's just calling my name. So
I want to know the reason why you're avoiding cybersecurity.
You know, we're human beings. We don't like change.
Yes.
You know? So I'm always going to advocate for like BA, project manager, product, right? But I do see I do see the importance of cyber, right?
Oh yeah.
Especially in like my day-to-day like work. Like when I write requirements and we're writing anything, we have to think about like, as soon as somebody says public dashboard, boom, everybody's like, which data, what's being shared outside? What's being shared, like, what are the legalities? What are the compliance? And so then, like, when I'm asked, how do your BAs, Amina, how does your BAs, you know, think about, like, they think through, like, cyber-related requirements?
Right.
And I don't have an answer. I'm like, oh, no, that's not good.
That's not good,
And you know, sometimes we have like these products or systems that have inbuilt cyber security functions in it that you don't necessarily have to think about like the requirements for that.
Yeah.
But after some time, like you do have to think. So now I'm getting like my team to start thinking about like, hey, like when you get a requirement or you get a request, think about like the security like aspects to this.
Yeah.
And if there isn't any, let's call it out. But if there is, then let's like get the security team so we can analyze that. So yeah, I mean, I think it's good. I just feel like you guys, cyber just came, you know, remember it was project management.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it was project management before cyber just boom.
Yeah.
And then boom, the cyber guys just like came and took over.
But thing about it is like cyber has been there, but nobody really took it serious until like people started getting hacked too much.
Yeah,
People were like, oh yeah, we didn't start, you know, putting
Cyber's-
money in this.
Cyber is huge. One of my she's like a mentor to me. She's actually doing her PhD in cyber.
Oh,
And I was just like,
That's tough.
you've passed me. I can't, like, I don't even know. Like, I was chasing her, but I'm like, I don't think I can go that far with you. But she's no, she's
Yeah.
doing an amazing job. So I think cyber is really, really big, and I love what you guys are doing.
Yeah, but like, you know, adding cyber to your skill set, that's gonna make you a different beast though.
Yeah,
I
and I feel
know.
like
I
it should be very easy for you
Yeah.
because of your
It's gonna be
skill
crazy.
set, and you don't even have to go like incident response SOC. You just go to like the GRC aspect.
Yep,
And
compliance.
it will be
and
so
you'll be
easy
good.
because you
Yeah.
you basically are doing it and you have most of the skills and you're also doing IT consulting, so I think
Yeah.
you should be fine if
Yeah.
you like, do
I
that.
think I'm going to have to come to you guys to teach me.
Sure.
Yeah.
Kimmy's the guy to go.
Come on. Yeah, but man, we got you. But like, let's, you know, because everybody like likes to hear about like, money, right? You know, compensation. Like, how much can I make? You know, doing this. So, what's like the salary ranges a BA can make from like beginner, intermediate to like senior level?
I would say beginner. I would say in terms of salary, I would say between 70K, that's beginner, 70K to about 85. That's beginner,
Yep.
right? If you're like if you're now like doing like C2C, or you're doing like you're like a contractor, like
Yeah.
an independent contractor, you can make junior level like 30. I hate saying that because it's like I don't even recommend my junior BAs or anybody I coach to take that. I'd be like, no, tell them no, you don't want it.
Yeah.
So, but I would say realistically, I've seen, and we're talking about USD, not Canadian.
Oh,
right?
yeah,
so,
yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah.
so like I would say like maybe like on the very lowest end, $30 an hour to about like 60 for like junior.
Junior.
Junior, right? That's if 60 is if you can really speak a game,
Yeah.
right? But if you are like mid, like maybe you actually like you have some experience underneath your belt, definitely from an hourly perspective you can get anywhere between like 65 to about 85 $90 an hour.
Yeah.
And that's mid-level. In terms of salary, that's probably anywhere between like 80K to like 110. That's like mid. Now when you're senior principal, you can ask for anywhere in terms of salary, like hourly on the lowest end 85, higher end like $150 $160 an hour.
Yeah, that's dope.
Yeah, and then
That goes like 200 and something K though.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely 200 something K.
Yeah.
And then on the salary end, because you're principal and you're senior or a management level, then you can make anywhere between like 200K upwards.
Easy.
Yeah, very
Quick,
easy.
quick question though. You were saying oh, this is not Canada or this is not Canadian. So from your experience, since you've been to both countries or you lived in both countries, what's the pay discrepancy like? How do you see it? Is it huge or?
No, it's not. Well, personally, I think they pay a little bit better in the States. In Canada, I want to say like senior level BAs are making anywhere between like 120 to 100 and maybe 50,000 Canadian.
CAD,
But then
yeah.
when you look at it from a USD perspective, then there's like a decline. Like I don't even know what that
Yeah.
that is, right? So when you do the equivalent,
change, yeah.
the change is not like it's $20 short, $30, you know. So it's I feel like also the Canadian market too is growing. So there are a lot of people who are making money, but I feel like the US market is like for like sharks, like you guys, like
Yeah.
they're really. When I started hearing people are making like $150 an hour in the US, I was like, USD, that's like 175 Canadian,
Yeah.
you know, or like almost 200. So I want to say like sometimes the conversion is the same. Sometimes like there's a big difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in terms of like the actual jobs, you know, do you think there are more in the US than Canada? Because I know some people in Canada they're like, we don't have like a lot of them.
Opportunities.
Yeah, a lot of opportunities. Like they want to move over to the US and things like that.
So this is my take on it. The Canadian, when we say Canada, right? When we say Canada, most people who are talking about they live in Toronto, right? Like, I'm not, and this is not like discrediting anybody that lives in like Alberta or like any of those, because there are jobs there. The people in Alberta and those territories, they're
Vancouver,
they're getting jobs, Vancouver, because like it's not saturated. So when I starting to learn the market, when I was in Canada, I started pivoting into like contract roles in like Vancouver and like Prince Edward Island and like the weird random like corners that nobody would ever think of. But a lot of the people who are in tech are in Toronto. They're in the greater Toronto area, right?
And that's the saturated part.
That's the saturated part. So I'll give you an example of how I can even imagine like everybody you knew, like everybody in tech you knew lived in Texas.
Yeah, that would be crazy.
So,
Yeah.
And most of the people are literally just trying to get jobs in Texas. That's the reason why everybody's saying it's saturated. Because it's like if everybody's in tech in Texas and we're not like, because most people are in Toronto, right? So if you're applying for jobs and you live in Toronto or you live in the greater Toronto area, you're competing with me. You're competing, you know what I'm saying? You're competing with me.
Lord.
You're competing with like PMs who are teaching your courses. We're all applying for jobs. So that's the reason why but there are jobs in Canada, but it's just that people are not like, I think now people are realizing that I need to start. And then the issue is that people are now saying, come back to work.
Come back to the office.
Come back to the office.
Yeah.
So that becomes trickier as well. So if you're in Toronto, nobody wants to move to Prince Edward Island.
Definitely.
Right?
Anybody wants remote.
But in America, here's the thing. Even if you live in Texas and somebody says, I'm going to offer you a $260K salary job, but you have to move to DC, you're moving.
I will.
You would move.
Straight up.
Because who doesn't want to live in DC?
Yeah.
If somebody says, I'm going to offer that to you in Atlanta, you're probably going to go.
Yeah. For sure.
Because these cities are like, but all we have is Toronto. We don't got another Toronto.
Yeah, that's true.
Right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So as we're about to end this podcast, I wanted to give you the platform so that you could just say anything you're working on, what you're currently doing, so that the fans will know more about you.
Of course. Which camera? Because there's so many cameras.
Yeah,
Okay. So we've been talking about business analysis for a few minutes now, and for anybody who is like really looking to kind of break into the tech space, I want to say that you can do it. A lot of us did it. We came from different backgrounds, so don't feel discouraged. Like with everything that we're saying, there are still jobs. You just have to be really strategic and think outside of the box, and then get connected with a coach. Right. And this is not to say, take a course. Like it's literally connect with somebody who's willing to just guide you. Right. And mentor you. Right. And if you think like, you know what, maybe I need to take a course to kind of help me. There's so many places. There's Udemy. There's like Google courses. There's LinkedIn. There's like, people who actually, offer courses. Right. So I'm just here to say like to people who just want to break into tech, it's just like the sky's your limit.
You should promote your platform too, your coaching stuff, and let them know what you do.
I'm humble. So, so I do offer mentorship and coaching. So it's through my company, Springboard Consulting and Learning. So if you guys ever want to connect or take a BA course and kind of help you pivot through that process, you can always connect with me. I'm very live on LinkedIn, very live on Instagram, and I'm sure my Instagram details will be in the video description.
Definitely.
Right.
Awesome.
Kemi, you want to shout out the event?
Yeah. Also, June 14, 2 p.m. in Atlanta. If you want to network, if you want to break into tech, Hackerpool family is gonna be there. Thanksgiving, Tech True. Even if you're not in Atlanta, buy that ticket. You want to be there. Stop playing. Stop playing. So June 14, mark the date. We're going to be live, 2 p.m. in Atlanta. Come through. Come network. Bloom's Bar, right? Yeah, so we'll see you there.
All right.
Peace.
Peace out.
All right.
That was great. That was great. That was good. Appreciate it.
I'm a BA now.
Right?
Yeah.